Is the Indian team forcing Rishabh Pant into the ODI squad?
The only reason we could think of why Rishabh Pant replaced Rahul in the ODI squad was because he's a left-handed batsman, and I don't think that's a good enough reason to replace someone like Rahul from the squad who's been so important in the ODI squad and been a clutch player for the last couple of seasons. If you look at numbers comparing Rishabh Pant and Rahul at number 4 and number 5, you can clearly see that Rahul is far superior, except maybe in terms of strike rate, Rishabh Pant does a little better, but again, that's such a sample size. It's such a small number in terms of the number of innings that he's played in the number 5 position. The other argument maybe that we can think of is that Rishabh Pant is young and has a lot of years in him. But with Champions Trophy next year, we clearly know that KL Rahul's been a clutch player. He's pulled off India from almost impossible situations. Every time the top order has failed in the last couple of seasons, KL Rahul has stood up. He has scored those 50s and 80s and even 100s when India's needed him to.
And if there's a situation where India desperately want that left-hander in the middle order and that's why they're playing Rishabh Pant, who goes out? The only name we can think of is probably someone like a Shreyas Iyer who will have to miss out in case they want to play both Rahul and Pant. But let's look at Shreyas Iyer's numbers, right? Shreyas Iyer has played 33 innings at number 4 where he averages 51 at a strike rate of over 100. So he's definitely not done his case any kind of harm. Add to that, Shreyas Iyer is also a very good player of spin, and considering the fact that the Champions Trophy is very likely going to happen in Asia, Shreyas Iyer definitely beats Rishabh Pant to that race purely as a batter.
Riyan Parag is an interesting case because you can compare his role to Suresh Raina's and the Kedar Jadav's. Someone who can bat really well, but also can give you a couple of overs. In fact, he got 3 wickets in the third ODI against Sri Lanka. But it's also interesting to see if he will be in the squad once Hardik Pandya comes back, or if Shivam Dube is going to be dropped in place of Hardik Pandya, whereas Riyan Parag might just keep his place in the ODI squad. Unlike Washington Sundar's role, who we have talked about in our previous video, if you haven't checked that out, go check that out. But unlike a Washington Sundar, you know Riyan Parag can bat. We know that he's a solid batter who can accelerate in the end. We've seen that in the IPL. It's just that because the sample size is so small, we don't know if he's going to be a permanent fixture in the squad.
Now, another thing that was very interesting in the Sri Lankan series was the constant shuffling of the batting order that we saw on display. We saw both Washington Sundar and Akshar Patel bat up the order. We saw KL Rahul come in at number 7, and it just felt like there was so much confusion or just so much trial and error, which I don't think should have been done right now, considering the fact that we barely have any ODIs left to be played before we go for the Champions Trophy. And just getting into this with a little more detail, Washington Sundar was sent up the order because India were not quite sure where to bat him. And in the case of Akshar Patel, he played spin well. He's a lefty, and that's why they sent him up the order to counter the Sri Lankan spinners.
Now, coming to the lack of ODI games before the Champions Trophy, the only ODI series we're playing after this is against England in February of 2025, which is the month around which Champions Trophy is going to start. This is almost the same case like the T20 World Cup, except we had an IPL to prepare before that. And so this just seems like a stage where we will need to know what the team is going to look like before the ODI series even starts, because we need a solid team to head into the Champions Trophy. To give you a little more context, India are playing 12 T20Is before the ODI Champions Trophy, which makes absolutely no sense. We have covered this in so many of our previous videos where BCCI have just messed up schedules and scheduling, not giving enough rest or not playing the particular matches that they have to play. This is the same case where India is playing a lot of T20Is before the ODI World Cup. And so to get a combination right, to know if Hardik Pandya and Shivam Dube fit in the squad, to know if Washington Sundar is there, if Jadeja is going to come back, there's so many questions, and you can only answer this with a 3-match ODI series that's happening against England, like I said, in February.
So yeah, this has been our video. Gautam Gambhir has definitely left more questions than he has answers in this Sri Lankan series, but it'll be interesting to see what India do come the England series, and just let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think some of these selections or even some of the batting order was absolutely haywire or not? All our links are in the description. Thanks for watching. Peace.